Growing up, everyone knew me as the bad girl, or, as some would say, the street smart one. I was the girl who didn't let anyone walk over her, the one who spoke her mind and didn't hold back. In school, I was a force to be reckoned with. Teachers might have called me trouble, but my friends and I knew that I just had a strong sense of justice. I didn't let anyone mess with me or the people I cared about. If someone dared to start something, they'd better be ready because I always finished it. Around my neighborhood, people had mixed feelings about me. The older folks would whisper things like, "That girl's going to be trouble when she grows up." But deep down, I think even they respected me. I wasn't afraid to stand up for myself or call people out, no matter who they were. When something unfair happened, people knew I'd be the first to step in and make sure things were set right. My reputation followed me everywhere. Some kids at school tried to pick fights with me just to see if the rumors were true. Others looked up to me, drawn to my confidence and the way I carried myself without caring about what anyone thought. Being labeled as the bad girl might have seemed negative to some, but for me, it was a badge of honor. I was proud to be known as someone who didn't take nonsense from anyone, who stood her ground and wasn't afraid to make her voice heard. Sure, my journey wasn't smooth. There were times when I got into trouble, times when I felt the weight of people's judgments. After high school, I moved on to university, excited to study financial accounting. My dream was to work in a top financial institution after graduation, maybe even manage my own team one day. I could picture myself in a sharp suit, handling serious business deals and making a name for myself in the finance world. But university life turned out to be far more intense and complicated than I'd imagined. I was surrounded by all kinds of people from different backgrounds, each with their own ambitions, struggles, and secrets. It didn't take long for me to realize that university was not just about studying or preparing for a career. It was also a place where people experimented with life, for better or worse. I started seeing sides of student life I hadn't been exposed to before. The parties, the thrill of independence, the temptation of things that seemed exciting and new. I was curious, maybe a bit too curious, and before I knew it, I found myself caught up in things I'd only heard about in whispers before. Relationships were intense and often chaotic. I got pulled into the drama of dating, breakups, and the roller coaster of emotions that came with navigating young adulthood. Friendships, especially between guys and girls, often had complicated layers, and it seemed like everyone was either falling for someone or moving on from someone else. At first, I tried to keep my focus, reminding myself why I was there. But soon enough, the allure of fitting in, of being part of the crowd, started to pull me in. I wanted to experience it all, to see for myself what life was like beyond the confines of studying in books. I found myself in situations I never would have imagined back in high school, sometimes feeling the thrill of independence, and other times feeling overwhelmed by choices I wasn't prepared to make. During my time at university, I met my first serious boyfriend. At first, everything seemed great between us. He was charming, attentive, and seemed to genuinely care about me. We spent a lot of time together, going on dates, studying, and exploring the ups and downs of student life. I trusted him, and he quickly became someone I felt safe with. But there was one thing he kept pushing for, something I wasn't ready for. He'd often hint that we should take our relationship further, but I always stood my ground and told him I wanted to wait. At first, he seemed to understand, but over time, his insistence started to bother me. One evening, he invited me to a party. The night was lively, filled with laughter and loud music, and we were both in good spirits. At some point, he handed me a drink, encouraging me to let loose and have fun. I didn't think much of it at first. I trusted him, so I drank it, thinking it was just part of the party atmosphere. As the night went on, I started to feel strange. My mind became fuzzy, and everything around me seemed to blur. I remember stumbling, feeling heavy and confused. The next thing I knew, he was guiding me to a private room away from the noise of the party. I tried to protest, but I could barely keep my thoughts straight, let alone my words. I didn't understand what was happening, and I felt powerless, trapped in my own mind and body. That night, he took advantage of my trust and my vulnerability in a way I hadn't anticipated. I had always set clear boundaries with him, denying his advances when he pressured me to go further than I was ready for. But this time, He found a way around my resistance. When I finally woke up the next morning, I felt disoriented and numb, trying to process what had happened. He was there beside me, looking at me with an expression that seemed almost satisfied, yet he tried to act concerned. He told me to calm down, gently reaching for my hand as he spoke soothing words. He insisted he loved me and that our relationship meant a lot to him, saying he only wanted us to be closer, to be truly connected. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, confusion, and a strange emptiness. I wanted to lash out, to question him, but his calm demeanor kept me silent. He kept telling me that this would bring us closer, that it was a natural step in our relationship, and somehow, I found myself quieted by his words. Over time, I found it harder to maintain the same boundaries I'd once held. It was as if a part of me felt defeated, like a door had been opened that I couldn't shut. From that moment, I found myself falling deeper